because they said Oregon's done with their gospel work. But, I've since learned, since I've left, that they're still expanding. They're still preaching in Oregon. So it's,
and not the homeless either, right? Those people are done.
Oh, no homeless, no disabled. So
there's certain people in the 7 billion who are not really eligible to be part of that 7 billion.
Correct. You're not really preaching to the 7 billion people, yeah.
Handicapped people, gay people, homeless people, their souls don't matter to God.
They don't say it that way, but they definitely don't let us preach to those folks.
There's a very big difference between Christianities with their soup kitchens on, Skid Row, where we actually genuinely care about people.
Right.
I mean, anyone listening to this again, why does your church is very selective on which souls? Didn't Jesus say, he came to reach everybody and to go out into the highways and byways, and those who are, bad news?
Right.
He didn't just say, okay, well, these people are going to be good, influence on the church and have money, and these are the problems. It's just ridiculous.
And when I was a member, I saw one time a man who was clearly homeless. He walked into the church building when we were having dinner time, and he asked for, if he could eat with us, and the 2 of the brothers quickly came in and escorted him out. So
that wouldn't happen in most Christian churches.
And I think I'll put my member hat on, although I was never a member, but I'll put my member hat on.
Yeah, I still do that too.
I'll say, no, that's not true. My church does preach to the homeless, and I've had many people tell me, and I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, I believe you. I believe that some Zions do welcome homeless and handicapped. I don't know. I don't want to whitewash this as every single church does this.
There's always going to be the exception.
But we've heard it from so many ex-members across the country. It doesn't happen.
There's enough evidence to say that, okay, maybe your specific Zion does. I would question that, and I would want to see some evidence that that's happening in a meaningful and substantial way. But even if that is the case, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt there. But if that's the case, we still have overwhelming evidence and testimonies from multitudes of other people from England and from all over the country that say that they're told to not preach to these people.
Right.
And one more thing, if you guys fix that, because you're trying to do your good works for your fragrance, you want to do your beach cleanups and your blood drives, and all of a sudden now you're going to start suddenly caring about the homeless. Well, guess what? You haven't done it for a long time. God's true church has not been doing this for time. Directed right from God. Where's that presence been until, if you guys ever make a change, why weren't you doing it from the day one?
And to do it, and to now start doing it as I think the WMSCOG does with multiple things, they'll hear their criticism and critics, and then they'll start to respond and start to fix those things. To do that is about the clearest example you can see of what Jesus said not to do, which is doing your good works to be seen by others. Like you're being seen by others that you're not doing these good works. So your core motivation to begin doing these good works is people are seeing that we're not doing it. So we got to start doing this. Like that's not what God's asking of you. That's not what Jesus wants from you. Jesus doesn't want you to go help the poor and preach to the homosexual community simply because people are criticizing you for not doing it. Like that's hypocrisy. That's fake. It's not real. And so
you have your reward in the eyes of men.
All that to say, again, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to any of you who are going to comment and say, well, my church, my Zion, we do preach to the homeless. Okay, I'll give you that. Maybe you do. But most, I would say most, or at least a huge number of the Zions, the overwhelming majority, in my experience, and it seems like in Kelsey's experience and Steve's experience, and in so many other, probably hundreds at this point of members and former members I've talked to, they do not do that.
And I want to point out that I attended 2 different Zions, or 2 different WMSCOG branch churches, and it was the same, in my experience, it was the same rules in both churches. When I attended the one in Oregon, we did have a member who was disabled, but that member was a family member of a current existing member, and that person was told, this person that you're bringing in is your responsibility. And I saw various activities were set up, like volunteer activities were set up that, this person who's disabled couldn't participate, and she was told she couldn't participate. So, this was my experience. I can't, there's always going to be, an exception somewhere. But, my experience, for different branches of the same church is the same.
So this is a problem. It is a problem. I think it's undisputable that the WMSCOG has a problem with not
taking the gospel to the whole world.
Yeah, and not loving the least of these, the low of the low. And that's just what we're hearing from testimonies. And so, again, you might argue against that and say, well, my Zion does. But all that says to me is that it's a problem, but all you're saying is, well, it's not a problem where I'm at, or maybe it's not as big of a problem or as widespread of a problem as you think. And, well, okay, that's fine, but it's a problem. It's something that does exist in the group and is a clear indication of an organization who fits very well in the category that the Pharisees fit into, of looking at the sinners, the worst, the gross people of the world, and wanting nothing to do with them. But these were the very people that Jesus went to. These were the kind of people that Jesus had the greatest compassion for and was closest to, because that's the kind of God that we have. He's not a God that looks at the homeless man, the guy who can't walk, who can't provide tithes because he can't have a job. He doesn't look at those guys and say, "Oh, that guy's not, he's not really worth having around." That's the kind of person that our God actually wants to be close to, because that's the person who has the greatest need. And
look in the Gospels where Jesus went out to people on pallets and stuff. The kind of untouchables, the lepers,
right.
Those who are rejected by mainstream society. Look, he went out there, doing this, and it's just such a contrast between, the false, Christianity of the WMCOG and, true Christianity. Where's your Salvation Army?
Yep.
Open your churches, once a month for the homeless community to have a meal, It's like these kind of things. And they, I can only speak to my experience, but my experience is that whenever we even did a volunteer activity, it was never done without contacting the media first, so that they knew, hey, we're going to be there. And it was all about we always had to even wear the same bright
yellow
color
shirts.
Up. It was yellow shirt, blue shirt. It was,
so people are just really aware that you were there.
So that, a bunch of people are all in this area cleaning up or doing some kind of activity where, we're hard to miss, So
they need to read the Sermon on the Mount about, you have your reward. But you know what? We can do so much. Like I said earlier, there's such a mountain of evidence against it. I didn't want to get you off track on here.
That's a good point. And I think to summarize that, it's like, maybe it's not 100% issue everywhere. I would say it's probably an issue 99%. Even in the places that might be welcoming the homeless and those in some measure. I would have strong doubt that they're doing it in a way that's coming forth from an actual loving, selfless sort of act. I think a lot of those scenarios are where there's family members in the church who have handicapped family, and so it's kind of like, well, what do we do? Like, we want this member.
Can't tell the member your family can't get baptized.
Right. And so maybe
there's
it's
two aspects to it. Like, the all-knowing Mother God should be kind of fixing this problem, number one. And number two, when God comes into your life, he changes your heart. They say you used to laugh where you once cried, you cried where you once laughed. And people going through the motions in the Church of God, it comes down to the people, not just the leadership, but the people, because it should be in the hearts of the people to go out there and do these things just in and of themselves, like we find in Christianity. But it's the church that's going to say, oh, don't do this, stop it. We need to, they're the ones shutting it down.
Yep.
They say, go preach to these people instead. It's heartbreaking. Jesus
I was told
he shed his blood for all these people.
Yep.
I was told not to volunteer unless it was with the church when I was a member.
Yeah.